My name is David. This is the West Coast Davengers, a comic book show hosted by me, David. Why don't you sit right there and enjoy? I can't. Okay, welcome back, West Coast Davengerinos. You have reached the pinnacle of the year 2023 for me. That doesn't make any sense. I'm so tired. I just got back from my UK vacation. I've had about 8 hours of sleep in 2 days. The jet lag is really hitting me hard, no matter what I do. Little did David know, he has COVID-19. I'm recording this on Saturday, and I got back Thursday night. This is everything I brought back. I actually had to buy a second, smaller suitcase to get everything back. So before we get started, do the stuff that they do on YouTube. You know, there's like a little thing right here.
Please like and subscribe, please.
My weekly sales are back, so that's West Coast Wednesday. But the gist of this trip was, it was my first vacation since Covey the Panda hit in 2020. I was actually in Scotland late 2019 for 2 weeks. I had a fantastic time last time I was there. This trip was my fourth time to Scotland and my fifth time to London. This trip came about because one of my favorite bands of all time, Blur, was playing a pair of shows at Wembley Stadium. The first time they've ever played Wembley Stadium. They are a band that I've absolutely loved since I was a kid, and I saw them when I was probably like 16. For American audiences, we all know them for song 2. Woo! They are one of the biggest bands to come from Britain in that time. The 90s was that classic battle between Blur and Oasis. And I know you're like, oh, what does this have to do with comics? We'll get there. But it does tie into comics, actually, because Damon Albarn, who's the lead singer of Blur, he went on after Blur broke up in the early 2000s to form a band that took off around the world, but here first, you all know it as Gorillaz. How does Gorillaz tie into comics? Well, Gorillaz is the brainchild of Damon Albarn and Jamie Hewlett. Jamie Hewlett is the creator of Tank Girl. He's a comic book artist. He did lots and lots of covers after his whole Tank Girl creation took off. But he did a lot of DC Vertigo stuff. He's a fantastic artist. And if you don't know Gorillaz, I think maybe it's time to wake up. I'm not happy. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine. Anyway, Gorillaz took the world by storm. Fantastic band that combines so many elements of music, but also art incorporated in the music. So Blur was the genesis of this trip. I'd been dying to go back to Scotland anyway, and London, both places I really truly adore. It was pretty fortuitous. There happened to be a comic book convention while I was in London, the London Film and Comic Convention. And so I bought a ticket to that. And it was London for 5 days, then up to Scotland for 8 days, where I would bounce around the country, but spend most of my time in Edinburgh. That's the gist of this. There's so much content, and there's so many episodes that I'm going to be doing about this. I think the next 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, you're going to be seeing the discovery of this haul. There's going to be at least 2 episodes on London, because I went to every comic store in London, which isn't a ton. Gosh Comics, Mega City, Forbidden Planet, Notting Hill Book Exchange, and I think there was one more. Orbital has closed down, so I didn't get to go there. And there were several on the outskirts of London that I guess are still considered in the city, but they are not close. They're, hour train rides. So I didn't go to all those, but I went to everything that I could in, like central London, let's say. But then the comic convention was fantastic. Highlight from that was meeting Brian Bolland. And Brian Bolland, also a legendary British comic artist, most famously known for The Killing Joke. UK comics culture is such a huge part. The 2 of the biggest writers in comics are British. You've got Alan Moore and you've got Neil Gaiman. What I was hoping for this trip, and you could see the 2 piles here, maybe even 3 and 4 of UK-sized comics. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to roll some footage of the first couple stores I went to, and then I'll show you some of what I got. I'm not going to show all of this. This is way too much to show. I do want to talk about my 2 biggest finds. Check out this. Buckle up. Enjoy the ride. Get a little bit of tea and enjoy.
Escalator in the airport going to London.
I am at the airport, Seattle Tacoma, about to get on my flight to go to London, the United Kingdom, where I'll be seeing one of my favorite bands, Blur. I'm going to see Blur at Wembley Stadium. I'm going to a London Film and Comic Con. I am going to Scotland. I'm going to comic hunt the fuck out of the UK. So why don't you join me on this fun trip? They come all the way to London, and this is the coffee that they have to offer me. All the way from London to Seattle's best. Mega City Comics after Judge Dredd. How are you? The reason why there is a strobe effect is because I'm using a GoPro to film this, and I guess the shutter speed kind of counteracts with the overhead light, so I apologize for that. I didn't know that was going to happen. It's not too intense, I hope. Now, I was really at home as soon as I walked into Mega City Comics. It felt like a store that I would go to all the time if it was in the States. Plenty of back issues to look through, and for me, looking through the UK size stuff was really the treat. But there was just a great selection. Prices were great for the stuff that I was looking for. And then there was some stuff that I didn't think was priced appropriately. But it seems that the US comics are just more expensive in the UK, which makes sense.
More spider punk. We sold loads. I sold at least 6 yesterday. Right, okay, so that other load are ordered. Is that snake or one got left?
Now here's where things start to get a little dicey for me, because I am trying to buy stuff that I think A, is going to be easy to sell for me, or B, things that I really want. But I also have to keep in mind this is the beginning of my trip, and I have a finite amount of space unless I want to keep buying more suitcases. Besides looking for UK versions or weird stuff that isn't published in America, I was also looking for anything that might be popular in America that's not popular in the UK. For example, I found low print run Spawns, and maybe nobody gives a shit about that stuff in the UK. Wow. I was playing that game where I try and find Mark Jewelers and back issues. And Mark Jeweler inserts don't come in UK price variant comics, but they obviously come in American comics. And I was also just checking prices to see what they charge for the pence variants, which do have an amount of collectability here in the US. But it wasn't mainly what I was looking for.
That is £12 an each. I'll report to Alex Duke is at the scene and has been reading the statements from police.
Their wall books are good. Files, graphic music. That's the first Madman. Ooh. Second find the character. This is a French version. There it is.
Just as I was about to wrap up looking through the back issue bins is when I met Martin, the owner of the store. We started chatting about certain books I was looking for, and he started showing me some stuff. And that is when he pulled out this Golden Age collection to show me, and you're going to see the rest of my experience.
So we had things like this, which are, this isn't quite what I was looking for, but these were rebinds, and they were done at random as well. So sometimes you open them,
and there would
you can
be
open
some
another
crazy
number
book.
2, and it'll be a different issues of.
So they would just take, like, I guess the stuff that came back coverless, and
They took the covers off and rebounds. You got 2 or 3 copies. I've had a customer buy one of these and got Batman 181 first.
Wow, Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy out of it. Yeah, they were literally done at random. That's not what I'm trying to track down, but just
I
fascinating.
love that
still.
though. Oh, how much is this?
Don't think I've got a price of it yet, but I'll find you a price.
Cool.
Not that expensive.
It's funny how, like, I've been to a couple stores already, and this stuff is not expensive at all, and that it's the American stuff that's expensive.
It used to be, that stuff's going up. It used to be real throwaway. So something like that, you go back 10 years.
Yeah.
Something like that you can find for £1, because nobody would have even thought about, oh, that's
Right.
the first UK appearance of the Punisher. It's just, that's another British comic throwaway.
It's really funny how it
Now
shifted.
it's, yeah, I think he's just try. You're welcome to have a look through there. None of that stuff's prices from the Golden Age collection.
How often does EC stuff make it over here?
Hardly ever.
Yeah.
I got a few bits in this Golden Age.
I saw the Valor. Is it the Valor
Yeah,
books that
that's
were up
out
there? Yeah.
That was after the
It's funny. I live in the Northwest. I live outside of Seattle, and from what somebody told me, the distribution routes didn't go out to the West Coast of the U.S. So
Right.
most of the EC stuff is East Coast or Central U.S.
Well, it's just like distribution over here. When comics first started coming over and they hit the newsstands, it was just 12 random comics. And they generally, well, it wasn't random. They had 12 titles, but sometimes the title was running late. They would just skip. They go, oh, we can't wait, and put another title. So we have what was called non-distributed. This is what I'm trying to find. Non-distributed ones over here, where X-Men 121, 122 just didn't ship. They weren't ready in time, so they put another title in.
That's so
For
funny.
ages, we had to hunt in America to try and find the missing issues. So these are British reprints,
Yeah.
or British versions of Golden Age comics. They look just like modern photostats, but they're not. I've researched them. And they were done. These, certainly some of these go back to the 50s and 60s.
Wow.
So these were done at the time when they couldn't bring in the comics because there was embargoes of shipping paper back and forwards. So they did their own version. They somehow got the comic.
That's really
I think
funny and-
Somebody new to draw the covers. We had Canadian ones, Australian ones, and British ones. There was a whole load of Marvel ones, but the previous guy I think has had all those out there.
Oh, this looks like another one too.
Yep, same idea.
Yeah.
60, so that is definitely from the time.
And
period.
this
We
one
went
also.
decimal in 70.
Yeah.
71.
See, I didn't know that. I was looking at it before. I was looking at another shop. I was at the Nottingham Book Exchange. I was like, "What's the D?"
D is pre-decimal.
Yeah. Oh, this is another one too.
Yeah,
Master
so that's
Comics.
the sort of thing. So we've got some. We had the originals of these, the Golden
Mm-hmm.
Age, and these are just the. This will be a British one with a D.
Because they did very similar reprints in the U.S. like that of Master Comics, and I just found a couple different ones recently.
But they're not modern. When I looked at it and I saw the white paper, I thought, oh, somebody just photoshopped
Yeah.
it. It isn't.
They're just-
That's how they did them at that time.
And they used good paper, I guess,
Yeah.
for it to stick around
Well,
like
good
that.
paper in Golden Age generally. We got this stuff. I've never had a collection of Golden Age like the stuff we picked up here. The 1940s stuff is in such nice condition because on this heavy paper.
Yeah.
And you got so much for your money.
I know.
10 cents. You got 60 something
Crazy.
pages.
I bought I like I said, I live out in Washington. There's a lot of old people in Washington, like people that moved out west,
Yeah.
didn't retire anywhere. They stayed there, and I bought
That's what you want, the attics. Yeah.
Yeah, and because the Northwest,
Sorry.
it's like we have similar weather to you guys,
Yeah.
so it's not. You guys have a little more humidity, but I bought a Golden Age collection. I got just a stack of stuff. There was an Archie 55 in there.
Wow. Yeah.
And I sent it off to CGC, 9/2, and I was like, okay, it's time to sell this. But I kept. This is really cool.
Yeah, we gain from the weather, like your sounds that you do. We quite often find the British ones with the pence and the D's on them are a lot better. Paper's a lot whiter, just purely because we didn't get that hot weather that browned the paper.
Oh,
I just straight that
Let me
while I
know
was
what
going
this
through
is.
it. That's more modern, but it is Alan Moore. It's very early
yeah,
Alan
I
Moore.
saw
Actually
those
has a
up
complete
there.
set. This was an early strip he did long before he became famous as Watchman and stuff like that. It was his own.
It's his art
own
too.
work. I do think he did draw it. Yeah,
Because
he was working for a music paper at the time. Let's just.
This looks like another one of those. Yeah.
No, that's Dave Gibbons. They're so.
Oh, Gibbons is in there
this is
too?
Jill Del Rey. Although he did go by pseudonym at the time. This is Alan Moores, but he was using another name. He used to draw a strip for. Or do a strip in a music paper over here in England, I think it was. And went under a different pen name. Don't know. Need to research that. That could even be him.
Yeah.
It's very primitive, and there was a strip that he did draw, so this could be his stuff. I mean, Warrior was the main, but he got picked up for from the US after this. I was at when this was launched. This was a Comic-Con. I remember the panel. Des Skin and Dave Gibbons and Alan Moore all in a panel announcing this unnamed magazine they were about to launch to
so
revolutionise British comics.
Oh, I remember when I first read V, and it was just like completely changed the way I looked at comics. So this is what I've been after. How often do you guys ever find, or do you ever find, a Deadline #1?
Might have one. I did have one. I can't remember whether we put it up for sale or whether I held it back.
I didn't think I saw it up
Let me
there.
have a look for you.
All right.
Brett Ewins and Steve Dillon. I went and met them. They were in.
Oh, Steve Dillon?
Steve Dillon, who again is no longer with us.
Yeah.
And Brett Ewins is no longer with us either.
I didn't know that Dillon had a lot to do with that.
When this launched, we spoke to him because it's very Camden. Tank Girl's a very Camden character. We did a launch signing outside that shop there. We had the Kangaroo.
Yeah.
We had loads of the artists. We had Jamie Hewlett down here. So I've got pictures of us. We had a Tank Girl lookalike competition.
Really?
Tank Girls on the table. Go to our website, have a look up our Facebook page, something. You'll see some pictures of old signings. Yeah, we had it way back when.
Wow. There's so much that fascinates me about the UK comic scene. You know, obviously we've got our own back home, but it's the stuff that I was never around.
Well, that was beyond amazing. And if you are in London, please visit Mega City Comics because it's fucking awesome.
I'm going to head over to Notting Hill Comic Book Exchange. Supposedly it's going to be the place that I'm going to find some fun vintage stuff. We'll see. We'll see on the West Coast Avenger. Notting Hill Book Exchange is actually split into 2 stores. I did not realize this until I was done with the bookstore, but the bookstore had an excess amount of comics. The other thing about this shop, they were playing Blur when I walked in for the entire time I was there, and if that's not a sign to keep shopping, then I don't know what is. And I found a lot of fun vintage stuff in here. It was great.
Who is this? That's cool.
I know you're probably thinking, why isn't Dave narrating this? Because I really want to listen to Blur, and I want you to listen to Blur. And I'm having a lot of fun looking through these UK-sized magazines, so just enjoy it. Dig with me, okay?
Right.
This is completely for my own enjoyment. Flipping through books, listening to Blur. There was something about this Captain Marvel variant, the Carol Core Custom Edition, that I just kept looking at and thinking it was very expensive. But it turns out that it's not. It's just cool. Not until I paid for the stuff that I bought next door did the shopkeeper tell me that the actual comic store was next to the bookstore. Oh!
It's totally next door. Thought that was the comic shop. It's like, you should go next door. I'm like, oh, no, it makes more sense. Ooh. That's dope. If it looks cool, I'm buying it. Except that.
Overall, between both stores, I found some fun stuff. The comic store side of it was just a little heavier handed with the pricing, but it was still fun to dig. That's the thing. I love looking through comics in comic stores. Overall, I recommend going to Notting Hill Book Exchange and Comic Exchange. A great place to dig around, a fun place to find some rare stuff that you might not find anywhere else. And here we are at Gosh Comics, known for its 2 floors of hardcovers, trade paperbacks, back issues, new issues, art prints, and spotlighting indie creators and self-published works all around the globe. One of the premier stores in London.
Light one.
No, yeah, but they're all like actual. Dude, it was such a good. The first one was such a good movie. Actually, the second one.
I had been here once before, but I didn't spend a ton of time downstairs. Now that I was down here, I was getting to look at the wall books, especially the ones behind the counter, and I had spotted something that I've been looking for a long time. It was that Foom with Stan Lee on the cover, and you're going to see me grab it off the wall in just a moment.
Can I take a look at the Foom 17? Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna grab this.
Cool, thanks, man.
Yeah, what else you got there?
I was really impressed by how much stuff I was pulling out of these back issue bins once I started looking. I wish that I had access to look at more of their books, but I was finding just some great deals alone in the Spawn category.
Take that out. Funny, these are more expensive. Deadline 2-second Tank Girl. Maybe the second cover of Tank Girl. Yeah, I didn't realize that Deadline number 2 was in that box.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm alright, thank you, ma'am. How are you? Yeah, you should be there.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much.
No worries, mate. Thank you.
There is so much to look at in this store, and the last time I was in here, I bought some fun indie stuff, so I wanted to make sure that I looked at everything again this time.
The biggest find was at Mega City Comics. And Mega City Comics is named after Mega City 1, which is where Judge Dredd takes place. Martin is the owner, and he's a really super nice guy. As you could see in the video, we talked. I just really had a fascinating and fun time with him. It's really funny because one of the first books that I saw on the wall there, I knew I was going to buy it, and that's Warrior Number 1. And that's the first appearance of Alan Moore's V for Vendetta, David Lloyd and Alan Moore. This is traditional UK magazine size. Very tough book to find. They have this as a fine. I think it's probably around that, maybe a little bit better. I don't really have an intention to grade this. This is just something I really want. V was the second book I think I read that Alan Moore did. I think I read Killing Joke, then I read V, and then I read Watchmen. It could have been the other way around. I could have read this after Watchmen. This is just something, I had a chance to get a shitty copy of this, and I didn't want to buy it. I was holding out for this trip, and it paid off. It really did. Now, it's really funny, as I was talking to Martin, and I was really picking his brain about getting some of this UK stuff. As you could see, I bought a lot of these UK-sized magazines, Spider-Man and stuff like that. Another book I never thought I would have a chance to buy. I just kind of mentioned it. I said, do you have a Deadline number 1? And sure enough, he did. He said he was saving it to get graded, but he said that happens a lot where he puts a pile of stuff together to get graded, but he never grades it, and then somebody just buys it raw. And this is a Deadline number 1. Now, I know this isn't a huge thing for the superhero collectors, but anybody that's my age should remember Tank Girl, the movie with Lori Petty from the 90s. That was the first time I had ever heard of Tank Girl. But fast forward to when I got into Gorillas and I started to understand who Jamie Hewlett was and see his art more often, I was like, oh, I really want this because this is his big creation in comic books. And this is Deadline #1, first appearance of Tank Girl. I'm just so stoked that I got this, and I'm so elated that he said, he was like, oh yeah, I have a copy. I think I paid equivalent of about $425 for this. And recently I saw a 7.0 go for $1,000 or maybe $1,200. This is about a 7.0, so I think that's a great price to pay for it raw in that condition. Once again, don't think I'm going to get this graded. I do have to figure out where I'm going to put this. I should have a box that this will fit in. I know some people get annoyed, oh, the UK comics are too big. Whatever, they're so cool. The regular format or the format that Marvel would release some of this stuff in is awesome. You get bigger art. That was the biggest book I got on this trip, personally for me, because I never thought I would have a chance to get it. So I didn't think I was going to see it. So I ended up going back to Mega City the day after the con because they had a book there, and you probably saw it in the video. It was the first thing that they actually showed me when I told them I was looking for UK stuff, mostly, vintage UK stuff. I didn't know if I was going to buy this, but I realized like this is something I probably had to bring back with me, if nothing, just to put it in one of the West Coast Wednesday sales, and that is the UK first appearance of the Punisher in Amazing Spider-Man. Super Spider-Man with the Superheroes is the name of the book. Number 178 from July of 1976. So this comes out just a little bit after the first appearance in American comics. It obviously is the cover to ASM 129. Super unique. I came back the next day to buy this just because I thought I probably couldn't leave the country without it. One of the other things that's interesting about Mega City was the fact that Brian Bolland dropped off like an entire car full of his comps and part of his collection when he was moving. And it's funny because I talked to Bolland about this at the con, and he said his wife's really vicious about throwing stuff out, and she was going to throw out all this stuff when they were moving. And he's like, no. And then he decided to take it to them and basically donated like a whole bunch of his personal collection for them to sell, which is great. Creator is basically saying, here, make money off this stuff because you're a comic store, and without comic stores, my career doesn't exist the way it does. And so me and Martin talked about that a bit. I'll show you what I bought because I ended up getting it signed. I gotta censor it a little bit. It's a very early 1970 underground comic that Brian Bolland did the artwork for on the cover and did the main story. I got it signed by Brian right here. So that was pretty cool that I bought it at Mega City and got it signed the next day at the con. So Mega City was by far my favorite comic book store on the entire trip. Hands down, it was a store after my own heart. Plenty of back issues to dig from. Lots of rare stuff on the wall. If you get a chance to go in there with the owner, Martin is his name, talk to him. Tell him that you watched this show and that I like the fact that I'm able to promote these stores on this channel for anybody that's going to be in the country or that lives there. Let these shop owners know where you found it about, because like most of the stores that I filmed in that I ended up talking to the owners, I told them about the channel so that they know about this promotion. So please, like, I would love for anybody that is able to make those two things connect, do it so that I can do this more often and stores can kind of rely on the fact that this is what I'm doing. Notting Hill Book Exchange was fun. They're a double store. One's an actual bookstore and the other one's a comic book store. They have a lot of stuff to dig around with. I will say that. Some of their prices were whatever. The thing I found the most is that prices on US comics there, mostly Silver Age and Bronze Age keys. That's what I'm mostly talking about when I talk about these prices right here. That stuff's really expensive. It's cheaper to buy it in the States if you can. Then everything else, the UK stuff doesn't go for as much. The weird stuff that I call weird, but it's weird to me because this stuff doesn't exist in the States. Yeah, that stuff is pretty cheap, but then you can find a lot of stuff that falls into that like post Bronze Age era that doesn't go for as much money. It all depends on the store. So Notting Hill Book Exchange was fun. Good place to dig around. Gosh Comics is a big name. I had been there last time I was there, which I believe was 2016. And they do support a lot of local creators to the London area, but also they stock just a lot of self-published stuff. I noticed that Gosh Comics had books from Floating World, which is a store/publisher down in Portland, publishing some of the bigger names in like the underground comic scene. Charles Forsman is one of those people that comes to mind first and foremost. Upstairs is all kind of like hardcovers and trades and stuff, and then downstairs is new weekly issues and then back issues. It's interesting. Their price structure was weird. There was some stuff that was just like way overpriced in the back issue range, like old Batman stuff. As you could see in the video, I found some good books that were just like super cheap. For example, I got this Spawn 119, which is a key. I believe it's the first Gunslinger cameo. It was £4. This Amazing Spider-Man 410 with the Great Carnage cover. I think one of the weirdest prices is the white version of Amazing Spider-Man 400. It was only £10, which is like roughly $14 in the UK altogether. There's no tax on printed matter, so I really love that. It's in a tourist area. When I got down to the back issues, there wasn't too many people, and then like there was a wave of like 30 people that came down there. My two biggest takeaways from Gosh, I got a Deadline number 2, which is the second appearance of Tank Girl, and there was also number 3 that I scooped up as well. But this, I've been looking for this for a while. I had a chance to buy it and I missed out on it at a claim sale with Bronze Age Batcave. That is the Foom number 17, Friends of Old Marvel, with that classic Stan Lee cover that ended up becoming the 1990 Marvel Universe card. It's the first badass trading card that Marvel ever did. Cool back cover with Kiss. Not a fan of Kiss, but I do like this cover. Anyway, this is £60, which roughly about 70 something, 80 something bucks. It's still cheaper than I've ever seen it in the States. So that's a keeper. That goes into the PC. See you next week, where I will be going and taking you through the London Film and Comic Con and show you the stuff that I got from that, or at least a little bit. Honestly, like I said, it's super overwhelming to try and figure out what to go through, so I'm just going to try and highlight some of the stuff. But you see some of the stuff in the video that I take out that I end up buying. All right, we'll see you next week. Cheerio! Cheerio! Now fuck off.
Fuck that. Get on with the song.
You heard from my sensual voice, my British accent, and a little bit of my Scottish. It's so terrible. Aye. Why don't you come over here? Sit on my lap. I've got something to tell you.